What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I am Alex, and in this video, I'm going to rank all 39 new games I played in 2022. A couple things to go into before we go into this enormously long video. These are, of course, games that I have played, and I feel confident enough putting on a list. They each have a little something maybe different. Maybe I didn't play all the way through one of them, or, you'll see as this video goes on. Also, for just making sure everybody's on the same page, games like Sonic Frontiers and Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, I own them, but I have not played them yet. And I'm also skipping out, you're not going to see Bayonetta or The Last of Us Part 1 or Pentiment. There's a couple of games I, just glossed over this year. So, of course, obviously, this is a list of games that I actually played. And with all that being said, let's jump in. We're going to go 39 all the way to number 1. Hope you guys enjoy. So coming in at number 39 is a game I really disliked. You're going to see at least the first couple games on this list are games I just flat out didn't like. Then it maybe is more games that didn't connect with me. And then there are games that I overall liked. It's just which one did I like more. So at 39 is New Tales from the Borderlands, a game that I think is just very disrespectful to Tales from the Borderlands. I replayed Tales from the Borderlands leading into this on purpose. I knew this game didn't look, for my own visual eye, the game did not look very good from the trailers or gameplay leading into it. And then replaying Tales just made me remember how incredibly special that game is. It really is good across the board. It's not just a funny game. It's not just an emotional game. It does everything right, in my opinion. And New Tales from the Borderlands does everything wrong. The characters are very not likable. In fact, I despise most of them. The comedy is some of the worst I've ever seen. The game generally is a visual story. There's actually extremely few times you're actually moving around and interacting, which in a sense, I actually like that about this game, that you are just watching. I'm not saying more games should do it, but I respect games that try it, throw it out there and say, hey, 80% of this game is just making decisions and listening to what this, because if it's a good story and good characters, it's actually going to be, I think, a really good game. Issue is, with most of this game relying on the characters and the story, those are the two main elements of this game. 80% of it, maybe even more, and then they're god-awful, well, the entire game then becomes god-awful. On top of it being just, again, very, I think, insulting that they thought that this is what a sequel would be to Tales, because it's just not. I could go on forever. I actually have done a full review of this game, and props to them. They gave me a review code. This is all being said with them having, me receive the code from them. So I do thank them. I respect the heck out of that decision, and I really hope they turn it around, because I don't want this franchise to be dead. I do want more games, but I want them to be good. Coming in at 38 is the other game I didn't like, Saints Row. Again, I did a full review for this. I do believe they gave me a code for this one as well. Again, props. Some of the games, the lowest games on my list, they were at least not maybe confident enough, but they were able to give people codes and said, hey, you may not like it, but here you go. So again, respect to them. This game is just, again, in my opinion, bad. It's not as bad as New Tales. I was really going back and forth. We actually got these games almost back to back. And this game, it feels like it's from a different era. In some elements of that, it's actually fine. Because the game kind of feels a little floaty, a little like the PS3, Xbox 360 age, that's okay in some regards. In fact, there's a game higher on my list that also feels like it doesn't belong in this era. It's just everything else. The game, in my opinion, it's not fun. It doesn't look good. The characters, the story, nothing about this game is good or fun. And I just couldn't get through it. I was not having fun in a game primarily known for having fun. The game has always had, the franchise has always had issues, but the prevailing thing about it is it's just like an open sandbox to have fun. When you lose that, you are left with already not much, and then when you change that not much, you have absolutely nothing, and that's what we have with Saints Row. Coming in at 37 is Scorn. So now we break, right? So those bottom two, I would say I had like a physical reaction where I did not like those games. Scorn to me is just not for me. Scorn is just not my kind of game, which is odd because I actually do think Scorn could have been for me, but for whatever reason, it didn't work. I love how it looks. I love the tone. I love the grotesque, the kind of horror and gore, I guess, that they're going for. it just didn't click. Like, I played it for about 4 hours, and I wasn't having fun. I actually also like games that kind of just drop you into the action, as in just dropping you into the game. You don't know what in God's name is going on. You have no forward path in mind of like where the game wants you to go. You just have to figure it out. I respect games like that because, more and more games kind of hold your hand. Scorn is not like that, and for that it gets definitely praise. But for the other stuff, I don't really even have that much negative to say. It just literally didn't connect with me, and that's why it finds itself where it does. Next up is Somerville. Same thing, same kind of game. Now this game, oddly enough, I really like. Obviously, the studio that made this, new studio, the team that made it, some of them are carryovers from the team that made Limbo and Inside. So what I would say with Somerville, like, game not for me. Maybe that's not necessarily true because I love Limbo and I love Inside. I think if you're looking at this as like the trilogy kind of thing, it just does not work. I think that everything that made those games special is not present in this game. This game has incredibly frustrating controls. There are some really, really odd puzzles. I don't need guides generally to get me through games. I need a guide. I needed to watch, and I'm glad I did that though, because in watching the walkthrough of other people playing the game, and then I was replicating it on my TV, I'd look at the comments and I'd see other people say, "How in God's name was I supposed to know that? I would never have gotten that if it wasn't for this video." Lots of comments said that. So in that way, I was like, all right, I'm not alone. I'm not alone. This game, I think, is designed badly. I think it's bad level design, and in terms of its draw, trying to do the same way of telling a story as Limbo and Inside, it's just not nearly as interesting as those games. And then as a game, playing it, having fun playing it, it's not even close to those two. 35 is The Devil in Me. I had a whole rant review on this game on the main channel. Some people liked the review, some people hated the reviews, which is okay. You can like or you could disagree, agree with me. It's okay. This game I overall did not like at all. I think it's the weakest of the 4 Dark Pictures anthology games. I guess the reason why I would put it above the others is I didn't hate it as much as I hated Saints Row and New Tales. And then I did also beat this game, which for Scorn, I can't say that. Somerville I did beat, but Somerville is like a 3-hour game. So if this game, The Devil in Me, finds itself in a weird spot, I love the concept. I do. I can't believe they actually messed this up. And again, it's all in my opinion. There are some people that really like this game, and that's totally fine. But I love the idea of this, this murder house and walls changing and these almost like Saw-like traps. And that's really how they position this game leading into it. And it's nothing like, well, there are some elements that are the same, but it's not a good cast, I don't think. I don't think they are believable. It's, I guess the shortened version, the shortest I can get, is it's one of those horror games that you need to just kind of go along with the stupidity, and the characters go along with the stupidity. The issue is, how dumb it is that they got themselves in the situation that they did. They also know how dumb it is, and yet they still do it. And then they call it out at the end of the game. And a game like that, or whenever that happens in a horror movie or a game, I immediately get turned off. You can have a stupid horror thing, and that's okay, but everybody needs to be on the same page. You need to know that it's stupid, and you need to carry that through to the end. You can't have the characters suddenly become wise at the end of the game and say, hey, maybe all that stuff that we did that was like brain dead, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Well, if you knew that all along, then why did this all happen? And that's just one issue with this game. There's plenty of other things. I did like a 20+ minute review on it if you want my full thoughts. Trek to Yomi or Yami, I always get the last part of that game wrong, is next up at 34. I didn't hate this game. I thought it would be better. This was a Game Pass game, so you only lose time. You don't lose any money, if you got it through Game Pass. And I would say, I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. I will be honest, it was a game that I definitely wanted to like more. And by the end of the game, I was saying, I'm glad I'm done with it. And that is, that's a negative thought, right? When you beat a game and say, oh, thank God I'm finished with that thing. That tends to mean, right, you weren't necessarily having fun. The game has flashes of incredibleness. Like the way it's shot, some of the camera angles are incredible. I love what it was trying to do. The gameplay was simple, and yet it kind of evolves and gets better as your character evolves. Like, I get what they were going for, and they were close. I think a couple tweaks here and there, and this game would have been really special. So lots of points on originality and trying some things different, but they also dropped the ball, and a lot. The gameplay gets very stale, and some of the camera angles, borderline, you can't see the character. You can't actually see the enemies you're fighting, which leads you to die quite often because the camera angle is atrocious. So there are issues here and there. The game does not keep it's not consistent. The game is not consistent at all. And if it was consistent, it would be much higher. And so not a bad game, and being on Game Pass also helps, but not a good game. At 33, we have Kirby and the Forgotten Lands. This is actually a game I played with my daughter. This is probably, I'll have to take a sneak peek at my list as I'm recording live on air. I think this is probably where it's I liked it. Now it's just where does it fall besides the other games, with the other games that I liked. It's a fine game. It's fun. It's actually pretty difficult. I'm a grown man, and she is 8 at the time she was playing it. She's almost 9 now. So, I felt like we were a pretty good tag team, but the game's actually rather difficult. It can get frustrating. She got frustrated, not to the point of, flipping a desk or flipping a table or anything, but it can get to, why is the game so difficult at points, at least for kids. But I think it's a solid game. It's a solid game. I'm not a big Kirby person. I've always liked Kirby, but gaming-wise, haven't really played many Kirby games. I feel like this is probably the first Kirby game I played from start to finish. So maybe I should go back and play some of the classics. But this game's fine. It's not amazing, but it was a good time, and it was what it was. I don't regret playing it. At 32 is Ghostbusters Spirits Unleashed. This is that multiplayer game from Ilphonic. So here's the deal with this game. So Ghostbusters is here because of one reason, and it's the lack of time I played it. And we'll get here with a couple other games on this list. So Ghostbusters I actually do think is a good game. I do. In fact, fundamentally, I think it's a more solid product than Predator Hunting Grounds, which is what Ilphonic did last. I think its foundation is actually better. The issue is it came out at an atrocious time. Came out, I think, right around Plague Tale and Gotham Knights and Bayonetta and Mario Rabbids and Call of Duty. All those games, remember those? Ghostbusters was there too. You may not have remembered it, and that's okay because nobody did. This game kind of died the day it came out. Nobody was playing it, really, the day it came out. Nobody's playing it now. It lasted maybe, to be fair, but also to be brutally honest, the player base of this game, I feel lasted a day, one day. And that's really sad because I actually do think this game is rock solid. So it's not a bad game at all. If it's cheap, pick it up. Pick it up with an asterisk that I don't know if you're going to be able to get into lobbies. I don't know if there's people still playing this game. So you have to worry about that, which is kind of sad that people do have to worry about that. But I don't think this is a bad game at all. It just was completely buried by everything else. Another game that lost interest after a day or two is next up, 31, Ghostwire Tokyo. So I've been on record stating multiple times, this is a good game. This is one of, and although it's so low, right? 39 things, this is 31. It's so low, this is one of the most underrated games of the year. I'd say that, one of the most underrated games of the year because it is a rock-solid game that I think is pretty different, and the elemental kind of attacks and the enemy design and the story, I actually think it's a really solid game. Now, I don't give scores. I did actually review this. They did give me a code. I got, really early access, was able to play it quite a bit. I like this game quite a bit. The reason it's so low is I just don't, from my perspective, it didn't move the needle. It's a solid game, but it's not going to change anybody's life. And then also from people's perspective, this game also lasted a day. It was shocking that this game came out and people talked about it for a day or two, and then it completely died out. And I don't actually think that's why I say it's one of the most underrated games, because it's not amazing. This game's not a 10 out of 10. But for the level of how good it is versus the level that people cared, it is such a gap that other games don't have, right? If a game's really good, but everybody played it, it's not underrated because it kind of matches. Both those things match. Ghostwire is good. It's not amazing, but it's good. Just nobody played it. And nobody talked about it either. No, there's nothing kind of pushing this game out. So there's a huge gap there. I think this is worth anybody's time at the right price, at least, right? If it's cheap, pick this game up. But that's why it's so low. Nintendo Switch Sports is next up. Solid game. I don't really have too much to say about this. I enjoyed my time quite a bit with it. I love playing it. Played it with my daughter. Again, she played a lot of the Nintendo games with me this year. But we really did have a blast. it's a 50-50 kind of game because some of the sports that like volleyball is just so much fun and is like the best. And then, but for every like amazing sport, you got a sport that you'll never actually play. And so it does kind of run out eventually of what you're able to do because there's only so many sports there, and like half of them are not good or they're just overshadowed by the better ones. So you eventually run out. So that's why it's where it is. 29 is Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So I like this game quite a bit, and I was debating. This is definitely a phase of this list. A lot of these games may have been interchangeable, where I was like, all right, well, which one did I really actually like more? I like this game quite a bit. I think I put in about 32 hours into this game with my wife. We were actually going for the platinum. We played the entire game cooperatively. We played this game like every night for a good amount of time, and we played many hours each night. Like I only have really solid things to say about this game. I don't think it's a spectacular game, but I think I'll always look back at this game as like, yeah, that was rock solid. It was fun. We're not over Borderlands, like the formula, which I know some people are, which is fine. That, you know, that stuff gets old if you've played all these Borderlands games. You know, the story is good at time, not good at time. Some of the characters, some of the writing, iffy here and there. But overall, I think, you know, if you're playing with somebody, especially like the way I was doing with my wife, like we just had fun. You know, there are some really funny parts of the story. It's solid enough, and we just like taking out enemies together and kind of going through it. And we got our money's worth. We at least 30 hours, if not more. We were going for the platinum. We didn't get the platinum, but we were very close. 28 is Mario Strikers. This game probably only suffers from lack of playing it. Really, really like this game. I think it's deep for being so simple, kind of like what you would imagine like Mario Strikers to be, right? Soccer. It's got its depth if you want to become like a pro esports kind of player with this game. It's got that, but if also you're just kind of doing it casually, it's got that as well. Looks visually awesome. I think its core fundamental gameplay in terms of how it plays is awesome. I really like this game. Issue being, came out, I played it a bunch, then it kind of died out. And I come back here and there for like when the new characters come out, but it's not a game that's like in rotation that I'm constantly playing. There's other games that are, you know, better than it, but it's definitely a really good one. 27 is the Callisto Protocol. I was debating, you know, where do I put this game? I was so looking forward to it. And all the evidence is on my channel of me really thinking it could have been a game of the year, you know, a top 10 kind of game of the year. And it's not. To me, obviously, my list, my video, it's not. It really isn't. It has its moments. I think it's a good foundation if you do more of these games. It's a really nice tech demo, like visuals. It's outstanding. It really is, and even what they do with the visuals and keeping action going, and it looks really, really good. The enemies are, I mean, there's a lot to like. There is a lot to like about this game, but it can get very frustrating. I don't know if the dodging thing is something that you keep going forward or is something that's going to be adopted like in the masses of gaming. You know, there are some issues. It's short. The story is nothing like all that special. The characters, nothing all that special. It's not a game of the year contender game like I want it to be, but it's not awful, right? It's not awful. Kind of a middle of the list kind of thing. 26 is High on Life. Now, the reason I put this here is because this is a game that I haven't beaten all the way. Halfway-ish through this game. So I thought, all right, I need to get this list done. It's going to be a long video. Let's record. So I put it here because it's definitely, I like it more than the other games. Maybe I like it more than games ahead of it once I keep going, right? But where it's at now, I overall like it. There are some, you know, I'm not always a fan of the comedy. The comedy can get pretty annoying for me. The gameplay is fine. I think it's like very average, but that's okay because that's not the main draw. So it deserves, I would say, again, kind of where it is. There's nothing that I would say is bad about it. There's nothing that's amazing, and I'm also only like halfway through, so there's still some factors that can change. So I think it deserves the spot it gets. And number 25, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. That's right, guys. I actually played a COD game this year. Now, quick story with this. A friend of the channel, whose name actually is also Alex, he had given me this, so I very much, if he's watching this video right now, very much appreciate that, man. And he gave me the code, and I said, sure, I'll take it. I haven't played a Call of Duty game in probably 12, 13 years, and I played it, and I'm really liking it. Now, I've only played the multiplayer, so that's, again, why it's here. I'm just having fun. I don't have anything of significance to add to the discussion about Call of Duty. All I will tell you is I haven't played it in forever, and I played the multiplayer, and I'm enjoying it. And I think that deserves a little bit of praise, and maybe it goes up if I do other things. Maybe it goes down if I do other things. But right now, I'm putting it right kind of in the middle-ish of this list, and I feel good about that. 24 is 2 Point Campus. Love this game. Love this game. Issue being when it came out, and maybe it was also my schedule, I just didn't play this game much at all. But I think in terms of, a simulation and growing a school and just all the stuff you can do in this game, I was really looking forward to this game. And honestly, like a lot of games in the same genre, I tend to play it a lot at launch and then completely fall off. And ironically, that's exactly what I did with this game. But it doesn't take away from the fact that this game is really good. This game is honestly a really good game. I just didn't play it all that much. 23 is Rollerdrome, a game that obviously became a thing, right? People kind of knew about it. I had covered it a little bit actually before the game came out. Then it came out, and people were like, you got to give this a try. This is a very special game. And I said, all right, I will give it a try. We'll try it out. And the game is actually kind of special. It's not, I wouldn't call it, a game of the year. I don't think it's like that special, but it is really fun. It is really different. I love the art style. I love, that it's kind of going for like the Running Man-esque thing. It's a good game. It is. The issue probably would be like replayability. I mean, there is replayability. There is. But if we're doing like a mini review, it's very short. It really relies upon you trying to perfect each level, which is fine. But, for the price, and then it's like, well, if you can beat it super fast, and if you don't perfect it, maybe you then, have some issues with this game. But it is a special game, and I'm glad it exists, and I'm glad it, it launched, and I'm glad that other people were like, oh, man, this is something people really should try out. And I was like, well, I was always, into it. I just never bought it. I think I bought it, the day after it came out, because I saw people say, no, this game's legit good. And I bought it the day after, and it is legit good. Another game that's legit good is number 22, Metal Hellsinger. This game is rock solid, and I would say when I played it, I've only had better things to think about it or to say about it as time has gone on. They gave me a code, just to throw it out there. I played the game, and I thought it was a solid game, but really nothing more. Really nothing more. As time has gone on, which, I think the game released in September. It hasn't been that much time. But as time has gone on, I think very fondly of this game. I think, you know what? That was a lot of fun. I'm not even into heavy metal. In fact, it's kind of a genre of music that I avoid. I really don't do it. But that game is just legitimately fun. You get really good at doing this, at going back and forth and back to match the beat. And if you don't do it, you're really going to get stuck in this game because you're not going to be able to succeed. But the game's just fun. Different weapons constantly being given to you, different enemies. The boss fights are difficult. They're rewarding, though. They're challenging. This game is really solid. And I said that when it came out, but I feel even more, now that I've had more time to think about it, I hope I remember, and I think I will, I hope I remember this game going in future years, because I probably will think back at it and say, that was a rock solid game. That was a game that released in 2022. Where I think a lot of people skipped it, but it's a very special game. Number 21 is The Quarry. I really wanted this game to be higher. If you guys watched the channel and leading into this game back in June, I really was hoping this was going to be the game that could rival Until Dawn. They gave me a code. I feel like it's probably best to tell you as we go through it which games I did get codes for and which games I didn't. Not because it affects what I say, but just, in case you guys want to, run with theories. Well, Alex is being too nice because of this or too mean because of this. You guys can throw that out there. But I'm not. I'm really not. Because I wanted this game to be Until Dawn 2. The quality. I didn't literally expect it to be Until Dawn 2. And to some degree, it did really well. There are a lot of elements in this game I really, really like. I think some of the characters in this game are very, very good. And then other things I really didn't like. I think there are some other characters or some writing of the characters that are atrocious. I think, the werewolf thing is pretty okay overall. It just doesn't recapture. Again, none of these games have, in my opinion. It doesn't capture Until Dawn. We've yet to see a game that can be Until Dawn again. And maybe you never can. And maybe I should get that through my thick skull. But this game tries, and it does, and it's by the same team, by the way, same narrative director and all the higher ups, and it does a pretty solid overall job, but it doesn't reach where I want it to reach, and that is sad, but it is what it is. Number 20 is Splatoon 3. Love this game. Not going to talk about it much because overall thoughts, didn't play it too much, but when I did, like I've known about Splatoon for a long time. This is a very special multiplayer kind of game. It just is. It's a game that I think you just gotta kind of have to play and say, wow, like they're just doing things that are a little bit different, but it feels like a multiplayer game that a lot of people could get into if they do it, and people do. The game sells insane amounts of copies. Splatoon 3 sold a lot of copies, so the game is very special. I think they nail multiplayer. Not too much more to say. Number 19 is As Dusk Falls. I was rooting for this game to kind of be as high as it could be on this list. Of course, you have to call it at a certain point because I think back pretty fondly of this game as well. And I think the issue with this game, the very quick review, they gave me a code. I also did a full review on this channel, so you can watch it. But the quick of it is the first half of this game, I actually think is extremely, extremely good. Like top 10. If the whole game was as good as the first half, the game wouldn't be at number 19. It would be a lot higher. But the second half really does fall apart. Now, and by the way, this is, of course, and you guys are probably seeing visuals on and off. The visuals don't upset me. Like, when the game was leading into itself, when it was coming out, I was very worried that the visuals would be something I'd be very, mad at or I wouldn't really like. What's odd about it is I actually was playing it with a group. I played with my wife and my sister-in-law, and we had a lot of fun. So we played with 3 people, so the voting things are happening, right? A lot of fun there. I don't think actually they liked how it looked. They were telling me, like, I don't like how it looks at all. I was like, it's odd because I thought I would hate the visuals. I actually really liked the visual style. The story itself is the thing that I think falls apart the second half. The characters fall apart the second half. The first half, really good. Really, really, again, Game Pass too. Give it a try. Like, honestly, if you're on the fence about it, at least the first half, I think, is worth playing, so try it out. And the first half carries the game on this list. Number 18 is the Destroy All Humans 2 remake. Now, I do have a rule when it comes to these kind of lists where I talk about games. Remakes count, remasters don't. So I did play Life is Strange Remastered. That doesn't make the list because it's a remaster. So this does make it because it's a remake, and it's not too high. It's also not too low. It's kind of right in the middle. For the reason being, I did already play it. I played it back when it first came out. I do really like the Destroy All Humans franchise. I think this is a faithful remake. I like it quite a bit. Visually, it looks awesome. There's some things that are a little rough around the edges. There's a lot of texture pop-ins with this game. Maybe could have used another month or 2 in the oven, but overall, I think this game is really fun. Obviously, a different age of gaming, just in general, but it's cool to go back to that age. And yeah, I mean, I've always liked Destroy All Humans. This was going to be an easy that I liked it. I do think they gave me a code. I'm trying to remember my memory bank, but I played it literally. I think I got it for Christmas the year it came out. I got it that Christmas. I've always loved these games. Number 17, Gotham Knights. This was a game I was wondering when I was making. I spent an hour or so on this list. I was really looking through. I picked the top ones. I picked the bottom ones very quickly, right? I knew where they were going to go. When it came to Gotham Knights, I was thinking, all right, where does this land? Is it a top 10? And then I really started looking at it and looking at the other games that I liked this year, and I said, can I really put Gotham Knights above some of these? And the answer was no. So Gotham Knights, I do think, deserves the spot. I don't hate this game. I like it more than other games I just, sang praises to. But it's also not a top 10. It's not a top 5. It's not my game of the year for a lot of reasons, right? This one I really won't say much. I've done full reviews. I've done probably, I think, 200 plus videos just on Gotham Knights. So my thoughts on that game are very clear elsewhere. Number 16, right above it, is Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Reunion. I liked it. I like this game. For me, it really gained ground at the end because I do think the middle of this game, I was pretty shaky on it, where I was like, I don't know if I like this game all that much. Like, if it was just the middle parts of this game, I probably would have put this in the 20s or maybe even the 30s. But the combat is rock solid. I love the combat. And then the game, I know what happened at the end of Crisis Core, originally, but I never actually had played the original game. So seeing it play out, seeing Sephiroth and his descent, and seeing Zack and seeing what happens in Cloud and all that stuff, the ending is very good. Even for me knowing it was going to happen, it was extremely good. And it's a remaster, but I will put this on here because I've never played this game before, and I do think because it's a mix of a remaster remake, it is classified as a remaster by them. I would put it right in the middle, where it's got a lot of remake features, including the combat is generally remade, right? It's somewhat loosely what it was, but it's also a lot more of what it has been with Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I think it's new enough of a game to be included on my list, and I've also never played it before, so here it goes. All right, we've reached the top 15, and at number 15 is Stray, and I love this game. This game is really, really special. I love the artistic just sense of it. I love the dystopian kind of atmosphere. I mean, this game is it's really cool, and this is another example. There's a couple of these games we've already talked about on this list, really. Metal Hellsinger is like a combination of multiple games, but you look at like As Dusk Falls, like, I like these games that try to experiment and try to do different things. That's why I threw in Pentiment towards the beginning that I didn't play, but it's been on my radar because I've seen people say stuff about it. But Stray is very special. Like, it's a cool little story. It's a beautiful world. It's fun to play as a cat. There's just a lot to like about it. And I knew I would like, or I was at least hoping, right, that I would like it, and I definitely did. Number 14 is Multiverses. This is a game I really enjoyed at launch, and the reason it's probably not higher is just because I fell off. But when I was playing this game, I play it every single day, multiple hours a day, for the first couple of weeks, like 2.5 weeks at least. I think this is a really rock-solid game. I do think I'd actually start to throw a certain L word, love, into the conversation. I think I do love this game. The issue is, when it came out, and then all the other games, and time management and stuff, I have fallen off. I will say, I haven't played this game in months, plural. And that's probably why it's not top 10 or something. But I think it's a really fun fighting game. I love the idea. I love that you can just keep going and just keep adding characters. And I do understand, like, this game actually did have a lot of people at the beginning. It did fall off. There were a lot of people that left this game, so I don't think I'm alone. But I wonder if other people would say the same thing, where it's like, I didn't fall off because it's a bad game. I fell off because of other things. Maybe I would have fallen off because I just, repeating the same thing over and over, but I really liked this game when I was playing it. Number 13 is Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Now, as of the halfway point of this year, I actually think I put this game at number 5 or 4. I did a mid-year ranking, and this game was in the top 5. I know that for a fact. It's fallen quite a bit. It's fallen for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think there's just better games that have come out since it, for sure. And then also, I think I liked it a lot more when it came out. This one I will also throw out. They did give me a review code. And when I was playing it for the review and making the review, I really enjoyed it. For the simple thing I just said, I fell off of it. Now, again, like, remembering, this is pretty high on the list. Out of 39, this is in the top 1/3 of it. So I overall really, really do like this game. The question is, why isn't it like in the top 10, or why did it fall so far? Just because when I'm thinking back at some of my favorite games, or games that rose throughout the year or fell throughout the year, Lego Star Wars is one that kind of dropped a bit. Because it's like, yeah, I liked it quite a bit, but I didn't actually finish it. I still, to this day, haven't finished it yet, and hopefully I will very, very soon. But it was special for what it was, but it's not top 10 material for me anymore. Number 12 is Dying Light 2, a game that I do think fondly of. So this kind of went in reverse. Dying Light, I actually think halfway through the year, was below Lego Star Wars, and nothing has changed from either of them. Since the last time I did a ranking, I haven't touched either of them. But Dying Light's kind of risen up from the ashes, because I do think at its core the game is very, very good. I put about 24-ish hours into this game, and then the other stuff came out. Sifu, Horizon, Elden Ring. That's what pulled me away from Dying Light. And then storage space on my PlayStation, I end up, I think, deleting it, so I'd have to reinstall it. But I enjoyed my time quite a bit. I liked Dying Light 1 quite a bit. I liked Dying Light 2 quite a bit. I wish I played it more, and if I did play it more, who knows, maybe it would have gone even higher. Number 11 is TMNT Shredder's Revenge. Fun game, very fun game. Short, extremely short, and I get it. It's about replayability. It's about playing as different characters. It's about playing with other people, not even just necessarily yourself. I played it by myself one night, just went through the whole thing. And that's kind of why it lands where it lands, because I think this game is just so fun, so stylized. I love the visuals. I love these kind of side-scrolling beat-em-up games. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Like there are some very special ones out there, and I love this. I think this is a really good game. It's just I got one night out of it, so you got to kind of have to weigh that again, knowing that you could play it more. I could play it more, but just weighing that with everything else. Number 10 is Evil West, a game that has risen, or at least when it made its impact on me when I played it, it stayed where it was. I like this game a lot. I don't think it deserves to be like a top, 3 or game of the year kind of thing. But this game is the game I was talking about, 20 minutes ago in this video, a game from a different era, right? So we talk about Saints Row feeling like, honestly, a PS3 gen game. Evil West feels the exact same. It feels like a game you would have played in 2009. And to a degree, that's a bad thing. But also to a degree, it's refreshing because it's a different era. It's an older era, but it still is the first word. It's different. It's not what we're experiencing right now. So it still feels, ironically, it feels new. And the game's actually really, like, the cowboys versus vampire element of this game is freaking awesome. The gunslinging, the idea that this game is a combat style of, like, God of War mixed with, like, this not God of War thing is really fun. This is a really fun game. It looks good. It takes itself seriously, and then some characters in the game don't take it seriously, so it's a little bit of a contrast that I'm not in love with. It's not a perfect game. It's not. But I think this game is really fun and deserves people to pay attention to it. I was paying attention to it years ago, and I'm glad it stuck the landing because it did. Kill the Culmination Games is number 9. You guys have maybe never heard of this before, but I actually did a review. They gave me a code, and so I'm going to make this very, very short. What you need to know. It's like Danganronpa. It's a discount Danganronpa, but it also tries to do some very, very different things that even Danganronpa doesn't do. So that's the quick pitch. I did a review on this channel earlier. It was, I think, in July. I saw this game, okay? I saw a trailer for it, and I was like, oh man, this reminds me of Danganronpa. I love Danganronpa. Let me contact the developers and see if they want to give me a code because I'd be totally into it. This game, I don't even think made a blimp on anybody. I don't know how many people bought this game. Could be under 100K. This game could have sold atrociously bad, but I saw something in it, and I asked, and they gave me it, and I was like, Jesus, thanks. And I played it, and I was like, you know what? This game is actually kind of special because it is a ripoff Danganronpa, but it also tries to do its own thing. It's not as, like, cohesive as what you would get from that, but it's still actually really good. And, based off my list, number 9 out of 39 games, game's kind of special in some way. Number 8 is the Rose DLC, Shadows of Rose in Resident Evil Village. I'm going to count this. I didn't really make a rule for this towards the beginning. Do DLCs count in my ranking list? Well, now you know the answer. The answer is yes. I love this DLC so much. Now, we're talking about the story where you play as Rose for 3 to 5 hours in that DLC. There was other stuff that came with it, but I'm talking about that. I really liked it. I think it gave Ethan so much depth as a character, additional depth. I like Rose. I know some people really don't like Rose. That's okay. I do like her. I thought it was a very clever way of going back into the same locations that we already did a year ago. It really was special. Like, they really tried some different stuff, whether it be horror or puzzles or whatever. They did some different stuff in the same thing you just had done, but they did it differently. And I really like it. This was a very special DLC. It really, really was. Number 7 is Evil Dead the game, a game that came out, I believe, back in May. And so I guess this one's a little odd. My story with this is played a bunch at launch, loved it. Thought it was one of, if not the most creative and impactful of this group. And so I'm talking about Friday the 13th, Dead by Daylight, like all those games. I really loved Evil Dead a ton, and I played it a lot. I thought it had depth. I thought it was fun to play as both sides. I thought you could get good at it for it to be challenging. And the reason it's probably not higher, I don't actually see this game falling. The reason it's not higher is because I stopped. I stopped after probably May, early June, and I moved on to other things. And I haven't gone back since. And to be flat out honest with you, I'm afraid to go back because I was really good at it, and I don't want to go back and be absolutely god-awful, which I would be. I know that. I'd be absolutely awful. I don't really want to do that. So that has stopped me from going back, but this is a very special game, and I think they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it, and it deserves to be this high. Another game that shocked the living daylights out of me and deserves its spot, number 6, Midnight Suns, Marvel's Midnight Suns. I keep talking about it that if I were to crown a game the most surprising game of the year, it would be Marvel's Midnight Suns, because this game, I thought I was going to like it, and I thought I was going to like specific parts of it and maybe not like other parts, and the whole package is amazing. This game is a game of the year contender. being number 6 on my list, and I hope it wins some random site's game of the year because I do think it deserves it. The story is actually really solid. The combat, the gameplay with the cards is top tier. Like literally, I'm not kidding. Top tier stuff. Even the stuff that's not the gameplay, when you're talking to people, they talk too much. Okay, there's a lot of talking in this game, but beyond that, a lot of it's really good. Like really, I can't say enough. This game is special, and I will say one thing I've said before. If you're on the fence of this game, if you've ever been on the fence and you're still on that fence, get it. Like, go for it, because I do think anybody that's on the fence that just tries it, you're going to like it. If you've never been into it, convincing you to do it probably isn't going to work, and that's okay. But if you were like, I'm not sure, do it. Do it, and I think you'll be impressed. Okay, top 5. A lot of these actually haven't changed all that much since these individual games have come out. So number 5 is Sifu. Sifu has always been high on my list. I do think it was pushed down twice based off what I'm looking at the other games coming up above it. Sifu is such a special game. I have so many good things to say about Sifu. I reviewed it. I played it back in the day. I've kept up with it, even if I haven't touched it actually in a really long time. I've kept up with, like, when do they do the updates and what do the updates bring. This is a very special game, and I am a martial artist myself, so like it is cool to see that stuff in games. But I think they do such a good job. Like, it's so being a martial artist and seeing his hand movements and his kicks, and it's so good. It's so good. I love the visual style, the combat, the gameplay, how it actually feels in your hand is so good. The dying mechanic and trying to save up points to level things up about your character in a given run. It's so good. It's a really special game. Number 4, Elden Ring. Okay, I mean, here we are, right? Here's where the controversy, if there wasn't already controversial picks already. I love Elden Ring. Let me get that out of the way first. Love it. This is the only From Software game I've ever played this much. I put in 50 plus, I think maybe like 51, that's why I say 50 plus. Put in about 50 hours. Absolutely love it. There's no other game from them ever that I've reached more than 6-7 hours. Sekiro, Bloodborne, maybe 6, maybe. So this game, yes, it's 4. It's not my game of the year, but it's such a good game. It made me play it. It made me keep going. It made me defeat bosses I never would have done in other games. It made me enjoy the game in a way I've never done before. And for that, it deserves all its praise. All the praise, because it turns somebody that has respected the heck out of From Software, but just never, and has bought all their games, just has never connected. And it turned me into, yes, I've played Elden Ring for 50 hours. Like, can you imagine that? For somebody to do that? So it deserves it. It absolutely deserves it. Number 3, Horizon Forbidden West. I have always since they came out in February, I have preferred Horizon over Elden Ring. I'm not going to make it a competition and do that too much, during these last couple. But Horizon, I do think, is very special. And I think the more people look back at the game, at least from a visual perspective and what they pulled off with an open world, is a sight to behold. It's something that very few can do. I think Guerrilla did an outstanding job. The story, I do think, is actually pretty good. I again think there's too much talk. There's a lot of lore building. I mean, you have to build out that world, and I think they do it sometimes better than others. I think it, in terms of like the conversations and characters and story and explanations, I think it was a more cohesive package actually with Zero Dawn more than Forbidden West. But what it loses there, I think it makes up for in enemy variety and fighting, the different weapons and the visual style. I mean, it just looks so good. And it feels good. It's not just, oh my God, this game looks amazing, 10 out of 10, game of the year. No, it's got more stuff than that, right? It's not my game of the year, but it's very close. All right, number 2, I don't even have to look anymore. I know exactly where we're at in the listing. God of War Ragnarok. Had to put it here. This game is phenomenal. It is. There's a game that's better, in my opinion, but this game is absolutely phenomenal from start to finish. Love the story. Love the visuals. The combat is so good. I've always talked about how I will always hold a very soft spot in my heart for God of War 3's combat, and I think that was like the top of the game kind of hack and slash stuff. This combat, though, it's different. I'm not actually going to say one is better than the other, because I actually don't think either of them are better than the other one. This combat is just so good. It's so rewarding. It makes you get good at it and understand, what to equip and what not to equip and the styles to use against certain enemies. It is, and I'm mentioning that because, a lot of this game, you're going around, you're puzzle solving, you're fighting enemies. That's a lot of this game, and it's good. It's like it keeps a very high standard, and then the story and the characters and all of that stuff. The game is very good. I don't know if it's a game of the generation, but it is a perfect part 2 to a part 1. It tells the story as well as you would want it to, and it deserves Game of the Year nominations. It deserves Game of the Year awards, and it almost got there for me, but one beats it, and it's A Plague Tale Requiem. I've given hints that this was going to be the one for a long time. They did give me a code, and is it more important that I say it for this game than any other? Again, really, I want to make it very clear to people. Giving me a review code means nothing. This was a game that I was the history is on my channel. I was so excited for this game leading into it. I was so hoping that they would, give me a code, that I would receive one and be able to play this game early. I was rooting for myself in that sense, but playing this game is very special. And in fact, it's so special, I'm actually going to do part 2 to this ranking. I'm going to talk specifically about Plague Tale, go through it. The short of it, everything in this game is top tier. Top tier. The story is phenomenal. The characters are absolutely incredible. They nail Hugo. Amicia is one of the greatest I've said this before, and I am not joking around. I mean this. Amicia is one of the greatest game characters ever created. You talk about strong female characters, and it's not even about female versus male, right? But hear me out. You talk about strong characters. How about a character that goes through more than you could ever imagine in life, and she kind of rises above it. She experiences failure. She experiences defeat. She actually wants to give up several times, and she fights, and she fights, and she has an arc, with other characters. She is incredible. Charlotte, the voice actress who plays her, she is my voice actor of the year kind of award. It is so good. But not just the characters, not just the story. I love the atmosphere. I love the Black Plague era. I love this game so much. It's so good. It really is. And it's on Game Pass. And, High on Life, having the most Game Pass, downloads of all time. In a way, I'm very happy for it. In another way, I'm actually very disappointed that you could literally play Plague Tale for free on Game Pass right now. There's no excuse for me, my game of the year. You can literally download it for $0 if you have Game Pass, or you could pay full price. And if you want to give them money, go ahead. But you know what I mean? It's actually nuts. The combat, incredible. I mean, I can keep going. But again, I'm going to make a video specifically on A Plague Tale, why it is my game of the year. But it is. Since it came out, this game was the game to beat. So it beat immediately Elden Ring, Sifu, Horizon, all that stuff. And then the question for me was, will God of War beat it? And I gave it every chance. And I wasn't picking favorites. I played God of War, and I said to myself, did I actually like God of War more than A Plague Tale? And my answer immediately to myself, no. I did not like God of War more than Plague Tale. Plague Tale deserved it. It earned it. It was the game to beat, and no game after it or before it beat this game. It is a game that I hope lives on. I hope we get a third game. And looking back, when we say, well, what was your game of the year of 2020 and 2021? Plague Tale is up there against all. Go back to the other years and pick your favorite game from those years. Plague Tale, I think, will stand against those games in my heart, in my mind, all that stuff. So there you go. I've been talking nonstop now for 52 minutes, I think the recording time is, before edits and stuff. Thank you all for watching. I really enjoyed doing this. This was a ton of fun, if not exhausting. But we will be doing more of this stuff. I got a most anticipated video coming, as well as a video talking again about Plague Tale, okay? Let me know your games, your ranking, your game of the year in the comments, and I'll see you all on the next one.